Alright guys, TacticalRab here, and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far with Master Shanghai closing in. Big discussions on the roster period over these last few days. We've heard rumours now that NRG are going to get rid of Marft, with potentially other changes on the horizon as well. Boostio, now from 100 Thieves, of course played with Demon 1 and Ethan of the NRG guys on that Evil Geniuses team last season, says they're making a big mistake to get rid of Marft. What should they do instead, especially with the Loud guys potentially on the agenda? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. Firstly, on Shanghai, confirmation of the prize pool, $1 million. I think it was maybe the same as this last year in Tokyo, was it? So I don't think it's, massively moving in an upward trajectory, but still, I think as long as the tournaments are $1 million plus, that's really fine. Maybe in some sense it doesn't matter because we aren't the players, right? So we're not getting the money, so maybe it doesn't really matter. But I think in general, it's nice to show that the tournaments are improving in terms of, the amount of money that's on the line and moving in a positive direction. So $350,000 for first, $200 for second, $125 for third, and on from there, down to, of course, the 12th place and the 10th place teams that will not make it out of the Swiss stage play-ins to the regular bracket. They also, though, confirmed yesterday what the talent lineup is going to be, and here it is, which is, well, it's a surprising one because there's certain names here that just aren't in attendance. Cool to see Baby Bay here, by the way, like Baby Bay and Doug. Obviously, Achilles, right, he's probably going to be the primary caster here, right, for the region, and maybe it makes sense on the decisions they're making because they are going to prioritize and put good money into making the Chinese broadcast very effective because, that is a massive scene and a scene that they want to tap into. But as a result, obviously, these are the observers there as well. They are cutting short, effectively, some names that you might expect. So, yeah, Mitch and Tom, they're not going to be there. And as he says, yeah, would love to have gone to Shanghai, but it's not going to happen this time. And, I've seen Pansy and Hybok, they're not going to be there. Sideshow and Bren, they're not going to be there. So, yeah, it's not really a great look, is it? And every single day at this point, we've seen a new caster pairing that isn't actually going to be in attendance. So I'm sure it's still going to be well executed, but yeah, I don't think it really sends the best picture right now because, we see as a boycott against China, what's going on? Like every other day, casters will be ranting for not getting invited, but he says, look, we didn't get invited. I wrote about taking a break as I likely will not co-stream. If I was asked, I would have gone to Shanghai, but, they were not requested to go. So very interesting development, I would say, but, this is the power of the Chinese region and maybe why they want to prioritize the Chinese broadcast and stuff like this instead is because the region is pretty massive, and the Edward Gaming guys that were on the ropes, I wouldn't say maybe on the ropes, but, they looked like they weren't going to win their own region again, but they did, as usual. So they do go in, of course, as the favourites from China, but they didn't have the best time last time out in Madrid, did they? So they will need to turn that around. FPX look pretty strong, I would say, at least in region. We'll see how that works out internationally, but they reportedly sold over 74,000 team bundles in the first 4 hours, based on, VC China's TikTok live shopping campaign. So that is pretty mega, it's got to be said. So EDG themselves, as like their own entity, even not including the Riot side, since these launched, they basically made 600 grand in revenue in about 4 hours from this type of activation. So it just goes to show how important, how big that region is and how much potential there is there for the teams, but also how effective this type of strategy is to actually generating revenue in esports, right? Because, for years now, so many different teams in many different esports have struggled to actually create sustainable revenue. This is the way to make it work, and it's clearly working out for EDG and others right now. Let's talk about quickly on challenges because it got underway again yesterday. There were some very interesting results, shall we say, even this one here with the 3 and 14 in 15 KDA, which is, the perfect pie. I would never have even thought about this or noticed it. So yeah, fair play for Mr. Funhaver for thinking about it. There was a ridiculous series last night as well between YFP and TSM. So YFP, those guys just made a change. Will FPS came in. Jake, of course, made his return after the Cloud9 days alongside Thief, Penny and Physic. They played TSM though, and Sim had an absurd individual series. 66 in 46 is good enough, right? You think, wow, 66 kills in that series plus 20. The fact that he also has 46 deaths, like he nearly had the most deaths in the entire lobby, which just shows that he's doing everything, right? Like he's getting kills and then he's dying and then he's getting traded, which when you're playing the Rays is pretty much what you want to happen. 320 ACS, 80% cast, but the first kills, that was the notable one. 32 first kills, 8 first deaths. So 40 rounds, like out of 61 rounds, he had 40 rounds where he was the opening engagements. and he won 32 of those, which is a ridiculous return on investment, right? That's actually insane to be like that effective in the first duel scenario. On attack, on defense, it didn't even matter. So one of the most absurd scoreboards that I've really ever seen, to be honest, and that was enough for TSM to get the victory 2-1 against YFP. So fluffily aimed, they took down Winthrop 2-0. QOR, they took down the Dobros, as they're now being known as, of course, formerly the Glazers, right? Now they're the Dobros, so, you know, I guess it could have been a worse name to come up with. Riot basically wasn't so happy with them using that former name, maybe understandably, but it was kind of unfortunate. Blinn took down Sad Esports 2-1, so that's, you know, these guys, right, with Spaz and Okonos, and that team we just mentioned with Teague, who had that 3-14 performance, but it was enough to get the win. So the second round here in the quarterfinals in the mid-season cup, which is now ongoing in North America Stage 1, Moist Shopify on the upper side, Oxygen Esports QOR, M80 then play TSM, and then Turtle Troop versus Blinn. So this is just straight up single elimination, loser goes home, and then of course the winner picks up some good money and also some points towards the circuit for the rest of the season. So that's what's going on over there. As Jake says, you know, 1-2 versus TSM, pretty tragic. We'll work harder though going forwards. But let's talk about some of this roster stuff, right? Because a couple of days ago now we saw the big confirmation, the big rumor that NRG were getting rid of Marv. This has not yet been confirmed, but Marv has taken NRG out of his bio. He's done multiple tweets implying this is going to be the case, and others have talked about it as well. So NRG needed to do something, you would think. They'd obviously massively underperformed. They had a couple of good series in there somewhere, but overall, they were not the team they were touted to be when this roster was initially formed. So Marv out of there, of course, as the controller. Tough state for Marv because he was on that Sentinels team last season, forced to IGL effectively, did a stellar job, but it wasn't good enough, and now NRG are making a move, and Marv is potentially the one to make way. Maybe there's other options, you know, we've talked about Pancada, we've talked about Les, we've talked about that, you know, Salak situation on Loud, and whether there's anything in that for these guys to potentially deliver. But the big question is this the right move, and should there be other moves they made instead, or in addition? Boostio gives his thoughts on the matter, of course, a player that's experienced with some of these guys, and says that as far as he's concerned, in his head, dropping Marv doesn't make much sense.
Is it a visa problem for them? I don't know. Lurking Rays is the best way to play. Excited for Achilleos. I fuck with Achilleos. Need opinion on Marv stuff? I wouldn't bench Marv. I wouldn't, drop Marv, but I don't know what's the problem with that team. So if they think that's the right case, I'm sure the team is going to make the right choice. But I probably would just try to stick it out with that 5-man roster. Because that 5-man roster can win, right? It's just something's not clicking, and maybe that could be fixed in a couple months, like this long break. But they're just getting rid of it. I mean, the pick crosser, I just got bored of it. Alright, so is business. Do you think Heretics will be great without Minibu? No, I think Heretics are a lot weaker without Minibu. Minibu is incredible.
Enzo, thank you for the prime sub.
B-split? Okay, then go do A pressure, and then use your ulti from like here, and then ulti through breakable with someone. Sean, break his breakable.
Yeah, someone's gotta break the door.
I will. Odin, wait for the Odin.
What do you think is the best Lotus comp? I don't know. Bro reported and said report, please.
Need it.
I don't smoke, but when I get very drunk, it comes naturally, but it is only straw.
Yo, Kel, Lev's screaming. Are we not daddy?
How many days a week do you drink?
Unmute.
No, bro. They're gonna be burnt out, and then Gen.G is gonna beat them, and then G2 is gonna beat them again.
It's not. Honestly, it's not bad that they're screaming because they
need it. True. They do need it. You're right. They do need that shit.
Before G2, they'd have a
I
way
see
too
what you're
long
saying. I
before
see what you're saying. They got eliminated because they're bad, so you're saying they need a scrim to become better.
Not what I said.
I see what you're talking about.
Just like that they were like the 3rd seeded for Americas, so
they got eliminated earlier. Oh, B-Dog. Oh my God, Brandon Sanders.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Oh my God.
Wait, we fucking won. We have Adder and B-Dog.
So sometimes it is very difficult to say whether getting rid of a specific player is actually a good idea or not. But sometimes something just has to change. And, you know, Ethan tweeted about it, right, didn't he, after they lost in the, you know, regular season, did not even make the playoffs, and said, yeah, good players, bad team. And when you say something like that, you're kind of admitting the team is done, right? Like, from a chemistry point of view, that team of 5 is not going to work again. And as Boostio says, you know, maybe there's a world which you try and stick it out and it works. But I feel like when it's been this long with that roster, sticking it out isn't always the best idea. So while Boostio's thoughts may be wise on the whole not dropping Marv thing, not sure I fully agree with him on not changing the team, because, you know, they will probably know whether that team has reached the end of its tenure, and therefore something's got to give. But whether it's Marv, that is the question that Boostio had. The other point, I guess, is that he played with Ethan Demon 1, won the World Championship with them. Ethan, I think, is a great player. Is he cut out to be an in-game leader of those type of guys? Quite possibly not. Boostio was doing the in-game leading for that team last year. Now he's doing the in-game leading for 100 Thieves, and see what happens, right? They just won the recent North America playoffs, and now they're going in America's playoffs, and now they're going straight through to Shanghai as the #1 seed from the Americas region. So, you know, clearly there's something in that, right? It's got to be said, there's something in that. And although Boostio might not necessarily say what maybe he thinks, I don't know. I wonder what his thoughts really are, because I kind of doubt that he doesn't have any idea what is going wrong or what potentially could change. Maybe he just doesn't want to be too critical of the guys that he won the World Championship with not that long ago. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. I don't think sticking out with that roster makes sense, but I also don't think a one-man move minus Marved plus somebody else is really going to be enough, right? I mean, if you're keeping Victor and Crashies, maybe they aren't the players they used to be. There's talk about FNS and Som and these guys, but, you know, I don't really think they're going to be bringing them back necessarily. So there are more questions to answer for NRG. They have time to think about it and to consider, because, you know, there are other good teams that didn't make it, which is good for NRG because it means that those other teams also might consider roster changes where NRG could theoretically capitalize. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Just have a look at some of the peak viewership here, actually. From stage 1 of the Pacific region, of course, Gen.G versus PaperX in the grand finals was the most viewed, as you may well expect, but Shanghai is not all that far away at this point. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.